In today's video, we're going to talk about how imposter syndrome is plaguing scaling entrepreneurs and how to shift out of that. Now, what is imposter syndrome? Well, imposter syndrome is simply when you are achieving something or you're living a certain life, but you feel like it's not yours. Or maybe you feel like you don't deserve it, or it feels off, okay? And I'm gonna share with you why that's happening and again, how to shift out of this. Now, before I get into that, I gotta take you back to a couple of years. In the past 3.5 years or so, we have scaled our company by 10x, a little bit more than 10x what we were doing previously. And throughout that process, it wasn't just a journey like this, okay? As a matter of fact, what happened is from 2022 going into 2023, we had 5x'd what we had done the year prior. Well, going into 2024, we actually went back down about 50% of what we had achieved in 2023. And then in 2024, we then went on to 2.4x, and now we're on the way to almost double what we did last year. Now, the reason I share this with you is because when I had that big 5x hike and then a big 50% drop and then back up all the way to where we're at now, there was a reason why this big, huge drop happened, okay? And the reason that was is because I had certain identity conflicts that were keeping me from staying at the level of success and continuing to grow it and continuing to level up. You see, what happens is when you experience imposter syndrome, virtually what you're experiencing is what's called identity lag, okay? What that means is that your growth, your explosive growth in your business, well, you're having this explosive growth, except your beliefs have not caught up to it. Your identity have not caught up to it. And this is what often happens with scaling entrepreneurs who have this huge explosive growth. Often they'll come crashing back down because they're still holding on to the subconscious beliefs that were keeping them in their old identity. So for me, a couple of the beliefs were, I'm not good enough as a leader. I also felt guilty for being a leader. And I was still operating from that self-employed mindset. You know, one of the things that the mistakes I was making was I would make decisions very, very quickly without thinking of the ramifications of how it's going to affect my entire team. Because when you're a solopreneur, you can test so many different things. You could do it very quickly, and there's not really any repercussions except for you and what you're dealing with. Well, when you have 30 people in your business, now when you make one decision, it's a domino effect that goes down the whole process. So being able to shift out of that self-employed mindset and more of a business owner mindset. One of the other things that the identity conflicts I had to overcome was shifting out of this thing about like, I can't trust anybody to do this, or I'm better than everybody. And I'll share with you something that I heard that really shifted my mindset around the delegation and trusting process. You know, if we can do something in our businesses at 100%, we're 100% effective at doing it. And you're afraid that, hey, if I hire this other person to do this, they can only do it at 70%. Well, now if you hire 2 people to do that, you're actually operating at 140% of the capacity that you were once operating at. And not only that, but now you can focus, you can take yourself away from the small tasks that are holding you back and start to focus on the bigger tasks that are ultimately going to scale your company, right? Again, going back into the beliefs is we have this belief that we're not good enough to scale or we're not good enough to grow. The other thing that happens is we will often experience fear as we continue to grow. You see, when we are in the process of growing our businesses, we're in an abundant mindset. But what can happen is when you start to create that abundance, we start to get afraid that we're going to lose it. And now we're no longer in abundance, we're in a scarcity mindset that keeps us held back into that old identity. So practicing this process of abundance, practicing staying in that mindset, even as you grow, rather than, oh my God, I don't want to lose it, instead of, hey, I'm going to continue to grow this, okay? So these are some of the things, and again, I'm gonna walk you through a very quick process on how you can start to identify some of these identity conflicts or limiting beliefs and start to remove them, okay? So first thing you wanna pay attention to is you want to notice, okay, how you feel. Now, I know this may sound funny especially to the men out there. Oh, I don't wanna pay attention to my feelings, okay? Your feelings are a guideline. Think of it like the check engine light in your car. When you're starting to feel pressure, you're starting to feel negative emotions, anxiety, that is your car's check engine light is coming on saying, hey, there's something that we got to dive into here, okay? You see, when we start to pay attention to how we feel, then we can dive into, okay, what's the belief What's the fear? What's the underlying emotion that's causing this to happen? Okay. And once you can do that, you start to identify, okay, the identity conflict. So in other words, what is the fear or limiting belief? Now, obviously you do that by working with somebody like myself, one-on-one, somebody, who does this kind of work. Matter of fact, we'll put a video up here where I show you what's called our breakthrough process. It's a process that we do with our clients. We also teach people in our certification how to identify these step by step. It's actually a very easy process. You just ask a couple questions to get to the root of it, okay? Then you're going to resolve, okay, the conflicts on a subconscious level. So the way that we do that is we have to shift our perspective. Now, by the way, the reason we have this identity lag is because of certain beliefs that we adopted from our parents, grandparents, so on and so forth, as well as what we experienced growing up. So let's say, for example, that you grew up in a chaotic sort of poverty sort of environment, okay? Well, as you start to scale and you start to notice, oh God, I'm starting to make more money, I'm starting to feel at peace with everything that's going on. Well, your subconscious mind, your nervous system isn't used to that. And so because it thinks that, hey, if I become successful, I may lose my friends and family. If I become successful, I'll be attacked. If I become successful, I have to deal with these issues. You will subconsciously self-sabotage yourself and keep yourself back in your old identity, okay? So when you start to identify what those are and resolve those conflicts at a subconscious level, now once you get to that next level, rather than going backwards, you can actually maintain for me, the process has been grow, plateau, kind of put things together, maintain, and then you grow, plateau, and it's this constant of growth, because hit the like button if you know what I'm talking about. Scaling entrepreneurs, you grow, things start to break, you fix them, you grow, things start to break, you fix them. And obviously you can do your best to prepare for what's going to happen, but you don't know everything that's going to happen, right? So you can't see what you don't know, right? So again, hit the like button if you guys know what I'm talking about. So once I resolve these identity conflicts, now you'll start to see that your growth becomes stable and you'll be able to continue scaling. Okay. By the way, listen, guys, if you are an entrepreneur that's feeling stuck, you're like, man, I'm hitting this level, I'm hitting this plateau, and either you're not growing or you're afraid you're going to slip backwards, I'm going to be doing a live hypnosis session. It's free. I do it a couple times per month, where we're going to actually dive into how to program your mind to break free of these identity conflicts that are keeping you from scaling. So now, by the way, this is something that I'm testing out. I'm making like a 6 or 8 video series on this, and I may not be offering this forever. Okay, so you can go register by clicking the link down in the description. If it's not there, then it's not there. But the only way to find out is by clicking the link down in the description and see if we're still doing this free live hypnosis session. All right, guys, so see you in the next video.